Early on May 20th, 2012, 76-year-old Nancy Harris opened the Whip-In store in Garland, Texas. While she mopped the floor, 35-year-old Matthew Lee Johnson walked in. He carried a bottle filled with lighter fluid and had a lighter in his pocket. Matthew moved straight to the little swinging gate that led behind the counter. Customers were not allowed back there. Nancy set her mop aside and spoke in a clear, calm voice. "Sir, you can't be back here," she said. Nancy had run the morning shift for more than 10 years. She knew how to keep order without shouting. But Matthew did not stop. He lifted the plastic bottle, tilted it, and drenched Nancy from head to waist. Cold liquid soaked her blouse and dripped onto the clay-colored tiles. Nancy felt the chemical sting her skin and tried again. "Please, don't do this," she said. Matthew's answer was to point at the cash drawer. "Open it," he ordered. His voice was low but hard, like the snap of a branch. Nancy's old fingers trembled as she keyed in the code and pulled the drawer forward. Inside sat quarters, dimes, nickels, and a handful of $1 bills, maybe $80 in all. Matthew swept the bills into his pocket. Then he grabbed 2 packs of cigarettes from the shelf, glanced down and slid Nancy's gold ring off her finger. Nancy gasped, but she did not fight. She hoped that if she stayed calm he would leave. Instead, he flicked the lighter once. No flame. He flicked again, still nothing. On the third flick, the tiny spark leapt to the soaked cloth, and in a blink, Nancy was on fire. Orange flames swallowed the blue pattern of her blouse. Matthew did not try to help. He turned, walked out, paused at the door to pick up a piece of candy from a jar, and vanished into the bright morning. Nancy's struggle. Inside the store, the heat felt like an oven door thrown open. Nancy staggered to the sink behind the counter. She splashed water onto her arms and chest, but the lighter fluid floated on top of the water and kept burning. The fire ate through her sleeves, found the cotton of her bra, and climbed higher. In pain, she ripped off the blouse and threw it to the floor, but when she bent over the sink again, the burning cloth brushed her pants leg. Now her lower body burned, too. Smoke crawled across the ceiling. The store's camera recorded it all. The empty aisles, the flicker of flames, and Nancy's desperate run to the front doors. She pushed them open and burst into the parking lot, yelling for help. 2 police officers, Billy Coffey and Anthony Simon, had just driven past and seen movement and smoke through the windows. They swung into the lot the second Nancy appeared. Officer Coffey grabbed a fire extinguisher from the trunk, ripped out the safety pin, and aimed a white cloud at Nancy's body. The hissing foam coated the flames, choking them out. Officer Simon knelt, held Nancy's hand, and spoke gently. "Stay with us, ma'am. Help is here." Nancy's face, shoulders, arms, belly, and legs were blackened. Patches of skin had peeled away, and yet she was still able to talk. Gasping between sharp breaths, she told the officers what happened. A heavy-set black man, T-shirt, blue jeans, carrying a lighter. The details were short, but they were enough to start the hunt. The hunt for Matthew. Matthew ran through backyards, hopped wooden fences, and tossed his shirt into a trash bin. A woman watched from her kitchen window as he stole a child's bicycle from a porch and pedaled away. He stopped behind a hedge, lit a stolen cigarette, and tried to calm the pounding in his chest. Less than an hour later, Officer Brian Terry spotted him walking along a side street. Matthew saw the squad car, dropped the bike, and sprinted. Officer Terry radioed for backup and chased him on foot. Matthew cut through an alley, hurdled a chain-link fence, and landed hard on the other side. He kept running, but slipped in loose gravel. Officer Terry caught up, tackled him, and snapped on cuffs. Inside Matthew's pockets, they found $76 in crumpled bills and Nancy's gold ring. Nancy's fight in the hospital. Paramedics loaded Nancy into an ambulance and sped to Parkland Hospital in Dallas, the region's main burn center. Dr. John Hunt met her in the trauma bay. He counted burns over 40% of her body. Some were second degree, red, wet, and blistered. Others were third degree, white or charred, nerves burned away. A fourth-degree patch on her right arm went all the way to muscle. Nurses placed a breathing tube because her airway was swelling shut. Even sedated, Nancy squeezed their hands and spelled words by tapping fingers. She asked, "Will I die?" Doctors explained the plan. Skin grafts, strong pain medicine, weeks in the burn unit. Nancy listened, then shook her head. She mouthed, "No more." Years earlier, she had signed a living will saying she did not want heroic measures if her injuries were too great. Her sons gathered at her bedside, tears shining on their cheeks. Honoring her wish, they agreed to stop the painful treatments. 5 days after the attack, on May 25, 2012, Nancy Harris passed away. She was remembered as a gentle grandmother who brought homemade cookies to the store for neighborhood kids. Confession and charges. Detectives questioned Matthew at the station. He smelled of sweat, smoke, and lighter fluid. At first, he slumped in silence, but once he started talking, the words poured out. He said he drank heavily at a wedding party the night before, took Xanax, bought crack cocaine, smoked 10 rocks, sold some for more, and by dawn felt desperate for money. He filled a bottle with lighter fluid, planning to scare the clerk but not hurt her. "I just wanted cash," he said. When asked why he lit the flame anyway, he stared at the table and mumbled, "I don't know. I was messed up." Police charged him with capital murder during a robbery. The courtroom. The trial began in December 2013 at the Dallas County Courthouse. Nancy's family filled one side of the gallery. Matthew's relatives sat on the other. Jurors watched the grainy store video. They saw Matthew pour the liquid, saw the flash of fire, saw him walk away. Dr. Hunt held up charts of Nancy's injuries. Firefighter William Cruz described her cries for help. Officer Coffey said the smell of burning flesh stayed in his nose for weeks. Matthew took the stand. He called himself scum and told the jury, "I should burn like she did." Yet he asked for mercy, not for himself, he said, but for his 3 little girls aged 9, 7, and 5. They were in the back row, hugging their mother, Sheila Johnson, who sobbed through every word. Prosecutors showed Matthew's past record: robbery of a woman at knife point, assault of a girlfriend, threats against police, carjacking, indecent exposure, and in-jail violence. A psychologist for the state said Matthew showed a pattern of impulsive, dangerous acts even when not using drugs. The defense called witnesses who spoke of his childhood: a father who beat him, a mother who drank, nights when he slept in cars because home was too violent. A drug counselor testified that crack cocaine can twist judgment, but the prosecutor hammered back, "Millions struggle with addiction. They do not set grandmothers on fire." After 10 hours of deliberation, jurors found him guilty and sentenced him to death. Life on death row. Texas holds death-sentenced men at the Polunsky unit in Livingston. Inmates spend 23 hours a day alone in small cells. Matthew filled his time reading the Bible, lifting push-up reps, and writing letters to his daughters. He joined a prison church group led by Chaplain Gary Lyle. The chaplain later said Matthew cried often during prayers, asking God to forgive him and to comfort the Harris family. Yet trouble still found him. One cellmate claimed Matthew punched him over a burnt breakfast tray. Guards found the inmate bleeding. 9 staples needed to close a head cut. Months later, a female guard reported that Matthew stood naked in his doorway, touching himself. Disciplinary records added new marks to his file. Appeals and final date. Defense lawyers appealed, arguing Matthew's childhood trauma and heavy drug use made a life sentence more just. The Texas Court of Criminal Appeals denied the petition. The federal Fifth Circuit did the same. The U.S. Supreme Court declined to hear the case. In January 2025, the Texas governor signed the execution order, May 20, 2025, exactly 13 years after Nancy's attack. Matthew's daughters, now teenagers, visited him the week before. They pressed their palms to opposite sides of the glass, drew little hearts in the fog, and said they forgave him. Matthew wept and asked them to make good choices, to finish school, to be kind. He wrote each girl a final letter that prison staff promised to hand over after his death. The last day. On the morning of the execution, Matthew woke at 4 a.m. He knelt on the cold concrete floor and prayed. Breakfast was plain. Scrambled eggs, oatmeal, toast. He ate little. He spent the afternoon meeting with Chaplain Lyle, reading Psalm 23 aloud. Texas used to let inmates choose a special last meal, but the practice ended in 2011 after one prisoner ordered a feast and refused to eat it. So Matthew's final meal matched the regular dinner tray: chicken patty, mashed potatoes, green beans, and white bread. He did not touch the dessert. At 5:40 p.m., guards came for him. They walked him from Polunsky to the neighboring Huntsville unit, the Walls, a red brick building, tall razor wire, and a small chamber called the Death House. Final words. Inside, witnesses filed into 2 rooms separated by glass, one for Nancy's relatives, one for Matthew's family, lawyers, and journalists. Matthew lay on a gurney, arms strapped to boards. A nurse inserted 2 IV lines, one in each arm. Warden Kelly Strong asked, "Do you have any last words?" Matthew turned his head toward Nancy's sons and grandchildren. "To Mrs. Harris's family," he said, voice steady, "when I look at you, I see her. I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt her." Tears pooled at the corners of his eyes. "I pray she is the first person I see when I open my eyes again, and that she forgives me." He thanked the prison officers for treating me like a person, and called the men on death row his brothers. "I love you," he said to them. He faced the other window. "Sheila, girls, this was my doing, not yours. Make good choices. God has a plan for each of you." Finally, he closed with a prayer. "Lord, thank you for your mercy these 13 years and for your promise of redemption. Welcome me, Father. I'm done." The injection. At 6 p.m., the warden signaled. A masked technician opened the valve that let a clear drug, pentobarbital, flow into the IV. Matthew took several deep breaths. His chest rose and fell. "We love you, Daddy," one daughter whispered through tears. Matthew gasped, then made soft snoring sounds. Within 30 seconds, his breathing slowed. After another minute, he was still. A doctor checked for a pulse, found none, and at 6:53 p.m. pronounced him dead. Matthew Lee Johnson was 49 years old. Aftermath. Outside the prison gates, Nancy's oldest son, Mark Harris, spoke to reporters. "Our mom was kind, gentle, and brave. Nothing brings her back, but today ends a long chapter. We forgive Matthew because our faith tells us to forgive, but we will never forget what he did." Sheila Johnson released a short statement. "Matthew made terrible choices, but he found peace in these last years. We grieve for Mrs. Harris and for our own loss. We ask for privacy." She drove her daughters home, the sun setting behind the pine trees that line the highway, remembering Nancy Harris. Every May 20th, the Whip-In store puts out a small photo of Nancy beside a vase of fresh daisies. Customers pause, touch the frame, whisper, "Thank you." A plaque near the entrance reads, "In loving memory of Nancy Harris, 1936 to 2012. Your light still shines." Nancy's grandchildren run an annual bake sale to raise money for burn survivors. They call it Nana's Cookies, just like the treat she once gave away at the store. The money funds skin graft surgeries and counseling for other families touched by fire.